Hello, hello, and thanks for checking out episode 119 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. My name is Greg Lindberg. On this episode, we are visiting with a young lady from the nation's capital, from the Washington, D.C. area, and she has been highly active in several different adaptive sports, including blind hockey and adaptive running. So let's go ahead now and hit the ice and start skating toward episode 119 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. Okay, so my guest here on this episode of the podcast is Liz Bottner, and Liz is a blind hockey player, an adaptive runner, highly successful in her career, quite an advocate for the blind community and the disabled community, so quite a well-rounded individual. Liz, welcome to Eyes Free Sports.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really excited to do this. I know we have connected through ACB, the American Council of the Blind, for those who aren't familiar, and really glad to now have you on my podcast here. It's an honor. So why don't we just kick things off here, Liz, just with your kind of the beginning of your story, the beginning of your early years, just kind of where you were born and where you grew up.
Sure. I was born in Delaware, which is a state. Some people have said when I've said where I'm from, oh, what state's that from? That is a state. And so I was born one of triplets. I have two sisters, and we were born 3 months premature. And as a result, my vision loss is due to retinopathy of prematurity, which it did have a different name back when I was born. And I think when I was about 2 years old, I could actually pronounce the long name that it had. Anyway, but it now is known as retinopathy of prematurity, or ROP for short, because the blindness community loves acronyms. Why should diseases be any different?
Yep.
All of my siblings have had some form of vision loss, have some form of vision loss. I have no remaining usable vision. And then my two other sisters, one of them has, through correction with either glasses or contacts, maybe not full vision. I don't know that she actually has complete 20/20 vision, but she has vision enough that she is able to drive. And that's pretty exciting for her, I suppose. And then the third sibling has a little bit of vision. She had more vision when she was younger, and then lost it when she was as she was a young adult. It was definitely really awesome to grow up with siblings who did have vision loss. I myself am closer to one of my siblings more than the other one. Possibly that's just part of being a sibling. You end up being closer to and potentially gravitate towards one over the other. I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. But I don't think that I am closer to that sibling just because of our shared vision loss. I mean, she and I, we share a lot of the same interests, hobbies, just kind of experiences and views on things. And that's, I think, far and above why we gravitate to each other and we're closer to one another. Yes, the vision loss aspect does add to that, but that I don't think is exactly why we are close. And so growing up with my mom being a very, very strong advocate for all of us to have the childhood that we would have regardless of vision loss, I did things that I thought were normal. I climbed trees. I went to summer camp. The camp was specifically for those children who were blind or who had low vision, which was a very interesting and helpful thing for me as someone who was mainstreamed in public school, and very happily so because of the academics. Personally, I don't think I would have gotten the academics that I got in public school had I gone to a school for the blind. Having said that, I do think that if I had gone to a school for the blind, potentially I would have gotten some of the other skills that may not have come as easily to me in public school. But with my childhood, as I said, I climbed trees, I went to summer camp, I rode bicycles and did all those things, participated from a very young age in sports camps, specifically for people who were blind or who had low vision. There was a chapter of a blind athletes association in Delaware, and my mom was a member of that, I guess, as a result. So we're the three of us as her children, or maybe we were members. I actually don't know how that ended up working out, but the logistics wise anyway. But we, when I think I was about 6, I attended a ski trip, or maybe I was a little
Hmm.
bit older than that, but I was young enough that I don't completely remember how old I was. So that is a fair assessment, I
Right.
suppose, of my age at the time. But we went on an adaptive ski trip, and I just remember having a really fun time. And I was with a guide, and all of us, both siblings, or all three of us siblings, that were with guides, and they helped us learn how to ski, and we skied down the mountain. And that actually spawned into my going to a winter ski camp for 2 years in a row. And I switched from going downhill skiing because I had known that I had done that prior, and I had never gone snowboarding, and was told when I asked what was the more challenging thing that snowboarding definitely was. And I said, okay, sign me up. I'm willing to try almost anything once. And the first time I got on a snowboard and was at the top of the mountain, I fell in love with the sport so much so that the next year when I went back, I thought about, should I switch to skiing and have more of an adult memory of that experience, or should I just stick with snowboarding? And snowboarding, happily, I am here to say, won out. I have no regrets whatsoever. I know I would have regretted not doing that and going with skiing. So I'm very glad that I stuck with snowboarding. Also at that camp, and that was in Breckenridge, Colorado, which for anyone who has not been there, it is beautiful. And I think everyone should go and experience skiing or snowboarding. My preference down on the mountain in Breck, as they call it. But we also tried cross country skiing, which I was not as much of a fan of, I will be honest, and snowshoeing, which I really did enjoy. Um,
Hmm.
but back to my early years, though, in just in growing up, they were filled with sports, be they adapted or not. My grandfather taught me all that I ever wanted to learn and know now about football. So I have him to thank for that. I'm gratefully appreciative of his love of sports and willingness to share them with me and watch them with me and explain to me what was going on, mostly in high school football games because my one sister was in the color guard, and we would go on Friday evenings and watch her. I also
Oh,
played
cool.
in T-ball, and so I was on what they call a challenger league, maybe those are national. I don't know, or in other parts of the country than just my little state. But there was a challenger league for children with disabilities, and I played for several years. Doing My one sister and I played, not the one that was in the color guard, the other one. She and I played t-ball for several years, and that was a really impactful experience for me as well. Being able to play a team sport and be have the experience for me be like any other experience as a kid growing up playing sports.
Exactly. And with sighted peers for that, right?
Yes, there was people with children with all different types of disabilities, not just people who were blind or who had low vision.
Interesting.
Yes.
Hmm. So then just continuing a little bit as far as your education, so as far as college, talk to me about your college journey.
My college journey, when I graduated high school, I went away to school for the first part of my undergrad to upstate New York, to Ithaca College, and double majored at that time in computer science and philosophy and religion. That was a double major, philosophy and religion. And I really
Hmm.
always knew that I wanted to get into some sort of technology and do something with technology. It has made and had even at the time, I knew made such a deep impact and difference in my life. And I wanted to do something with it for my career. And so I spent 2 years at Ithaca. Fortunately, had an amazing foundational educational knowledge, and really attribute that to my start in just growing as a young adult with my knowledge of, yes, computer science and philosophy and religion, but also life. I had professors who just were amazing and willing to explain any concept that I might need to have explained to me uh, in a way that I understood it. Even if they didn't know how, they figured it out. And
Hmm.
then after 2 years at Ithaca, it was an amazing school, is an amazing school, but it probably still is, but it definitely was at the time also very expensive. And so because of that, transferred and went to the University of Delaware, which was not the best experience for me academically. I went from a school that was very, very small. I don't remember how many students Ithaca College has, but it
Sure.
is not that big. I will say that. But University of Delaware is, in contrast, quite large, and you are very much a number. And I felt like I was kind of swimming around in this sea of fish and didn't really know, where the fish leader was, I guess, if you want to put it that way. It was very lonely, and professors were not
Hmm.
willing to work with me, so much so that I ended up dropping my computer science major. They did not have a philosophy and religion major, double major, and so I um, ended up but I went with it for computer science. I was wanted to still graduate with that at the time, although the professors at the University of Delaware were not willing to work with me in a way that was helpful, and it was more of a frustrating experience than it needed to be. And so sadly, I, not by choice, well, I guess, I mean, I could have stayed and been frustrated and stuck through it, but I didn't think I had a choice. And for my own sanity and mental health, decided it's not worth it. And so I dropped that major, and graduated with my bachelor's in philosophy and a religious studies minor, and wanted to get work experience before going into grad school. I knew I wanted to at some point go to grad school, but I also knew that I did not want to pay for it, and was already
Right.
paying off some student loans for undergrad at the time. And so for about 2 years, tried very unsuccessfully to find work experience, and ran into the experience of no one wanting to hire me. I would get interviews, but that would be all it would be. And I was just kind of discouraged and said, okay, whatever happens, I will be fine. And, maybe I should just consider grad school now. I don't know. And then I saw on an email list that I was on a message about an announcement for a program that was grant funded at Northern Illinois University, which was halfway across the country from where I was at the time.
Yo.
And but it was in vision rehabilitation, and it was grant funded. So I really would only have to pay for room and board and books. And I said, well, that's interesting, but maybe that would be a good thing for me to pursue. And I contacted the professor and talked to him, and he was extremely enthusiastic. He was especially enthusiastic about my passion for and wanting to go into assistive technology. And his name is Dr. Galen Kapperman. And Cap, as we call him, he was just very in my corner, as it were. And they did not have at the time a degree in assistive technology, but he was perfectly willing to let me do an independent study semester on my own of courses that I decided to do study in related to assistive technology. And so I have courses on my transcript that no one else has because no one else was in those courses. And so I kind
Wow.
of say that I got the assistive technology degree before it was actually a degree. And so I did, after talking to Dr. Kapperman, I applied for the GRE, took the GRE, passed the GRE. Hooray. That was an experience in and of itself that could possibly take another podcast episode to talk about. But I passed that with a qualifying enough score and did go to Northern Illinois University, graduated from there, spent my first year in Atlanta at a nonprofit organization teaching assistive technology. After that, I spent about 8.5 or so years at with the Veterans Administration in Connecticut. Actually, I went where I did my internship as part of my master's degree, and taught vision rehab therapy in terms of living skills and access technology. I kind of switched between the two as they needed me to as they required of me to do. And then in fast forward to, let's see, December of 2021, after negotiating a transfer within the VA, the Veterans Administration, from Connecticut to Washington, D.C., I started at the Veterans Administration in DC. Their mode of blind rehab instruction was on an outpatient basis, whereas in Connecticut, I was teaching veterans who came and stayed in residence for weeks at a time. In DC, veterans would come in during the day, take their classes, and then leave at the end of the day, and then come back maybe later that week for a second follow-up class or the next week. And so I did that for a little while. That job was an amazing job. It just was not the right fit for me. And so I was extremely open and honest with my supervisor about that. And that conversation could have gone one of two ways. Fortunately for me, it went the way of being extremely supportive in terms of my supervisor, and she recognizing that I knew what I wanted and she wanted to help me figure out how to get that, even if it wasn't me staying there working with the veterans at the DC VA Medical Center. Shortly after that, I transitioned to. I left federal service actually, which that is also a scary thing and was at the time, but I knew I needed to do that to get to where I wanted to be. And I left federal service and have a very dear friend and someone who I consider in my close circle of mentors and people to thank for helping me navigate that transition and, just reassuring me that it was not the end of the world to leave federal service and that I would be okay. And I spent about a year in a job doing digital accessibility compliance work, still with the Veterans Administration, but instead of being a full-time federal employee, I at that time was a contractor for the VA doing digital accessibility work and evaluating websites and documents and programs against Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG standards, and Section 508 laws and regulations. And so that is what I did for, as I said, about a year. In late 2022, I saw in passing a posting for a job with the National Library Service at the Library of Congress for an assistive technology specialist within the patron engagement section. And after about half a second of talking myself out of that job in terms of applying because of fear of rejection, because I had a lot of that in navigating my previous job search from the time I was in Connecticut to the time that I was in DC. And I didn't really want to have to go through that again if I didn't have to. Through the encouragement of really everyone that I'd mentioned the job to, I decided, you know what? I will regret not putting my name in. So I will do that and see what happens. And as of April 24, 2023, which a bit of trivia, April 24th is the Library of Congress's birthday. I started as the assistive technology specialist for the patron engagement section within the National Library Service at the Library of Congress. I'm not going to say that 5 times fast because that's a mouthful. So I have been there for a little over a year, and it is an honor and a privilege. And I truly, truly mean that. I am exactly where I want to be and need to be. And I plan to stay here as long as the library will let me.
Nice. Wow. And what a journey you've had, and, ups and downs.
If you had said when I was navigating the move to DC that in a year and a half time, I was going to have 3 jobs, I would have said, no way. But that is exactly what happened. But the incredible, beautiful thing is that each job led to the next. And as I said, I am exactly where I want and need to be. And it truly is an honor and a privilege. I'm not just saying that.
Sure. Absolutely. So then moving on to sports. So I know you did mention, as a child growing up, going to some camps and definitely getting quite a bit of experience. It sounds like at a pretty young age, in terms of winter sports, etc. But just talk to me about as an adult. I mean, did you kind of continue like as a teenager into your early adulthood in terms of sports? Or?
Absolutely. Sports have always been a part of my life, whether that's was and before when I was talking about snowboarding, that was done as an adult. Actually, the first time I went to that camp, I did it through work, which I thought was kind of
Hmm.
fun because we did not have at the time where I was working any real adaptive sports programs in the area for veterans. And so I wanted to go and kind of bring back information from attending that camp that might be helpful for veterans. And so I was able to go for work. And then the next year I liked it so much that I took my own time and went back. But that was as an adult.
Nice.
Also,
Yeah.
I have played blind ice hockey as an adult. I play goalie. I am, uh, I like to say, and others on the Hartford Braillers, Connecticut's blind ice hockey team will also say as well. I think they would agree but my title is senior goalie for that team. I was the first goalie that the team had, and so that's why I'm affectionately dubbed myself senior goalie. And so
Good nickname. Yep.
yeah, and I've also played on in several national tournaments. One of which was in Chicago. I am honestly blanking right now on which year that was, maybe 2018. I don't know. Regardless, it was, to my knowledge, the only USA tournament in blind hockey where a shootout happened. And it was
Hmm.
also the only tournament that I played in where I was goalie in that happening. And my team was the team that won. So I blocked all of the shots in the shootout, including one penalty shot. And I was told that the person
Wow.
who made that shot was not happy, but I mean, I was just doing my job. So, but that was such an amazing experience. In thinking about it now and talking about it, I am just having feelings right now of how it felt that night to be kind of on top of the world and just in shock of like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So I don't think that's happened before, and I don't think that has happened since.
Oh, wow. And I mean, just the setting for that. Chicago, such a long history of hockey, obviously, with the Blackhawks. I think one of the original teams
Yes.
in the NHL. So very
And
cool.
what made it even more special was that I had family who were in Chicago and they came and they chose that night to be able to come to see me play. And they were able to watch that
Hmm.
and did get some of that on video. So that
Wow.
my mom has
Wow.
never
That's
been able to
amazing.
see me play yet, but the family members that did were very happy. And then I could and did share that video with my mom, who was very happy as well.
Nice. Definitely a keepsake for forever,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. But in addition to blind hockey, in 2018, I was at a blindness related conference and at the end of the year, and a table for Achilles, Connecticut was in the exhibit space. And I stopped by that table and kind of got more information and found out that they were an adapted running group and was interested. And it's really interesting to me as well because in my first job in Atlanta, I had a colleague who was extremely big into running and always encouraged me to try it. And I said, I don't know, I'm not really sure if that's my thing. But for whatever reason, in 2018, I had decided to kind of find out about Achilles. And in the summer of 2019, I started running with them. And I actually did several races with them with human guides as well as with my current guide dog, who is also a certified running guide. And so that has been an amazing experience. And it's just something that I never thought I would do and never thought I would like to the level that I really do enjoy running. And so it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Yeah. I'm definitely curious about your running guide. I know your dog is from Guiding Eyes for the Blind, which does have the running guides program for blind and visually impaired runners. So just talk to me about that relationship, that bond, and also as far as like the harness, the leash, what's kind of different when it comes to running with your dog.
The harness is different. It's kind of a soft harness. It's made by a company called Roughwear. It's called the Unifly harness. It
Hmm.
has one connection to the harness body. It's just the handle, where the traditional guide dog harness has two connections, one on either side of the dog's shoulders or around there. But this harness, the Unifly, has one connection to the harness body, And it's more comfortable, I think, for the dog as they move around, and it's lighter for sure than the leather harness. And so it's a different feel uh, for me actually as well to get the feedback from that harness versus the traditional harness. And you asked about the bond. The bond with human and guide dog, there's nothing like it, and you can't really fully explain it, I don't think, unless you have been there and been partnered with a guide dog. But I will say that running with my dog adds a layer of complexity and just closeness, I guess, if you will, to that bond. My dog is extremely proud of her work as a regular guide dog, and that comes first. Absolutely, always should. I will not argue that at all because she is my regular guide dog first, and she is my running guide second. But when she does have that running harness on, and we are going for a run, there is an extra pep in her step in a way, and just there's a way that she carries herself that I know and can feel is different than when she is regularly guiding me. I don't know how else to explain it or really what it is, but I just that there is just something magical when we are running that is kind of escaping words at the moment in terms of being able to describe it.
Sure, I definitely can feel the, just the passion and the bond in general that you're describing. So, and in terms of the training with her, when you did go through the training to get her, what percentage would you say was, the actual running guide part of it versus like regular guide dog training?
It's different for each individual who goes into a class. My particular situation was I did not, I went through regular class first and did the running guide portion after graduating. Someone
Hmm.
came out to my home and we did that at that point. Part of it was that I had not yet run when I was for myself when I was in class with my dog in February of 2019. I was scheduled to start with Achilles that summer, and the requirement was that I get a 5K under my belt and get my own pace figured out first before running with the dog. But when I was in class with my dog, going through regular guide dog training, something just told me to see if she would even be eligible and willing to run with me. And so I did ask at the time about having her on her own assessed as a running guide, and she was assessed and passed with flying colors. And they usually take the dogs out on a certain distance of a run. And the person who took her out told me that he took her out further than he normally would because she wanted to go. But that is my dog for you. Anyone who knows my dog will not be surprised by my saying that. And so she passed with flying colors, which then made me all the more excited to start with Achilles. And I did get a 5K under my belt. And then in June of 2019 and in the beginning of July of that year, an instructor came out. Actually, it was the same instructor who and it was our class supervisor. So she knew my dog and I as a team, which was special for me that she was the one that came out and certified us. But we went on a little track area, boardwalk, paved area in our home area, and that was where our local place would be where we were going to regularly run, and we were assessed on that, and we passed that, and we're certified as a running guide team.
Nice. It's fantastic. Is there like a maximum distance that you would run with your guide, or just in terms of her limitations, or how would you kind of explain that?
I'm not completely sure what the definitive answer is that the school would give. You do not obviously want to run something like a marathon or a half marathon with your dog. That's not something that the
Right.
school would appreciate. I do not believe. It really is up to the dog, and the handler's endurance. But I mean, a 5K is pretty safe. I think I have done with my dog. Uh, we've done, I think, a 10K, um, which 5 miles before. Um, I've gone with her on slower training runs for 10 miles, but again, that's not at a flat out running pace, all those 10 miles. But I would not do anything more than probably a 5 mile race with her. But again, it really is up to her. She sets the pace when we run. That is what you should do with your running guide. I mean, you want it to be fun for them, and so they set the pace. Um, but I would listen to my dog, and I would never do anything crazy. And the route itself has to be fairly consistent in terms of terrain, and you don't want to have it be a super crowded race. That's not fair to the dog either. So, but really, my advice to anyone seeking answers to those questions is to contact your school. And I do think that Guiding Eyes at this point is the only school that does certify running guide teams. But if you have any questions at all about, and you have a running guide and you are not sure about if the distance is right for you and your dog, don't run it first. Contact the school, ask them. There's nothing worse than being in a situation that when you have pushed yourself or your dog too far, and that actually could do damage that could potentially otherwise have been prevented. So,
Right, absolutely. And what's your dog's name and breed?
my dog's name is Ocala, and she is a black lab.
Nice, very cool. Definitely got to give her a plug officially.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of any other adaptive sports, have you had the chance to try like goalball, beat baseball, or any interest in like soccer or darts, anything of those sorts?
I have tried beat baseball in sort of a clinic type setting. I played goalball competitively with the Pennsylvania women's team back, many years ago. I have tried darts also in a clinic setting, also blind soccer. There was actually a blind soccer camp in my area a few years ago, and I did go to that, and it was over a weekend. I went to that, and it was fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know it's definitely still growing in this country, but there is a big effort, with USABA and
Yes.
just kind of the soccer community trying to push blind soccer. So really excited to see that happening.
Tandem biking is also something I've tried and really do enjoy. I think the hardest part is finding pilots, but
Yeah.
captains. Maybe that's the best. I think that's the actual word. Someone that drives the bike. That's not me.
Right. I think I've heard both terms. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but that has always been fun for me, and I would love to do that. They actually have that here in my area, and I just have not yet done that, but it is something I want to do.
Nice. Very cool. I did want to ask you about just being a female athlete, competing with males, I'm sure, over time, different sports, whatnot. Would you say, has that been challenging at all? Have you been accepted, would you say, for the most part? Just tell me about your perspective as a female athlete.
Sure, I absolutely have been accepted, and I appreciate that. I've not been treated differently. If anything, I've been treated differently at some of the national teams, especially in blind hockey, some of the staff who maybe don't know that I'm as comfortable as I am, participating in playing with my fellow male athletes. But I mean, I'm one of the only girls, or was at the time one of the only girls on the Braillers. So which to me, whatever. I'm here to play hockey. I'm not going to worry about things that people may think I would worry about. Like making sure that I feel safe when I'm getting ready and things like that. I'm just like and I don't know. In my experience, sometimes the girls' locker rooms that they have at those places are really teeny tiny. And I'm like, okay, I'm a goalie. I have a lot of equipment. I need to have room to spread out to put my gear on.
Yep, it's heavy. It's a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't put me in a closet, please.
Yeah, definitely appreciate your transparency and honesty with that. And in general, I feel like the adaptive sports world is pretty accepting of all individuals, regardless of gender, of background. It sounds like for the most part, that's been your experience.
Yes. I also think as well that if teams are going to be made of, female athletes, that I really would strongly urge people to not get rid of the mixed play, and male and female athletes playing together. That is what I'm used to. I would not want to give that up. And if I was ever told that I could not play with my friends on a team again, and I had to play specifically with females, and that was all I had as an option, that would crush me.
Right, right. Interesting. Definitely wanted to touch on some volunteer work. So I know you're very involved in addition to your day job, to sports and other activities. I know you're very involved in some organizations as a volunteer. So anything you'd like to mention on that front?
Absolutely. So you mentioned ACB. I am involved in the American Council of the Blind. I wear several hats in that organization. I am currently the vice president of the Government Employees Special Interest Affiliate. I also am a member of the Next Generation Affiliate. I serve as a board of director on the Guide Dog Users Special Interest Affiliate, or I guess for the Special Guide Dog Users Special Interest Affiliate. And I am a member of the ACB of Maryland. I'm probably forgetting other roles, but those are the several roles that I can think of off the top of my head. Outside of the American Council of the Blind, I am very deeply involved in an organization called Penny Forward. I serve currently as the vice president on the board. Penny Forward is an organization founded and led by blind people whose mission is to help people who are blind or who have low vision, or really anyone, navigate the complicated landscape of personal finance. And there are many different ways that occurs, but financial independence and financial literacy and education is helpful and important, and finances touch every single one of us. And it is an honor and a privilege to be able to volunteer for Penny Forward and give back to the community in the way that I have been able to do in doing that, and meet the people that I have been able to meet, and truly see lives be changed, because that is what happens. And we may be a small organization, but we are growing and we are mighty and we are changing lives.
Oh, nice. That's a great organization. And definitely a shout out to Chris Peterson, the founder of Penny Forward. I know he's also a beat baseball player and athlete himself. So definitely a big fan of everything you guys are doing there.
Thank you. He and I co-host a podcast together, which is, I was saying before this recording that me being in the interview spot of a podcast is a different role that I have to get used to. I'm usually on the other end. So it's been fun.
Turning the tables on
exactly.
you. Exactly. Yup. So before we wrap up, any kind of social media you want to mention, or resources, or if anyone wants to get in touch with you, anything you'd like to share?
Let's see, resources in terms of sports. I think, Greg, you mentioned the United States Association of Blind Athletes, usaba.org, I believe. The Achilles International Organization is adaptive running. There are many different blind ice hockey teams around the country, Canada as well. It started in Canada. Also, Canada is really good at audio describing their blind hockey events, which you can find on YouTube. The U.S. does some of that, but I do have to give major props to Canada for just giving access where access is needed in that arena. And for anyone who might want to reach out to me, you can do so through my involvement with Penny Forward. A good email address for me is pennyforward@pennyforward.com. So if you would like to email me, that is a good way to do that.
Nice, easy enough. And as always, I'll certainly include links to all that info in the show notes, so everyone can easily access that there. Again, our guest on this episode of Eyes Free Sports has been Liz Bottner. And Liz, thank you so much for your time. You provided some great insight, just great stories, great anecdotes about your life and sports and experiences. So thank you so much for everything, and definitely wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors.
Thank you for having me. And one piece of advice I do just want to end with is that for anyone listening who may not be sure if blind sports is something they want to do, try it. If you are listening and you have maybe had sight before but have lost vision later in life, and are someone who, when you had more sight, did participate in sports, no matter what it was, there may still be a way to participate in that same sport or those same sports with vision loss. Just ask around. If you choose not to, that is completely your choice, but there are ways essentially to still participate in those sports. And I would rather someone make the choice to just give something up after having tried it once. Yes, it might be different. It might be frustrating at first because you're used to doing it with sight and now you are doing it with less sight or maybe even no sight, but just try it first and make a decision from an educated perspective versus just thinking, I'll never do this again.
So true. And great way to end it. Alrighty. Thanks again, Liz. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. To hear more episodes of the Eyes Free Sports podcast and to subscribe, search for Eyes Free Sports on your favorite podcast platform or visit eyesfreesports.com. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter at eyesfreesports.